We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
I may not be a millionaire. I may not have a brand new Frigidaire. My clothes ain't all fancy, and my car ain't brand new. But there is joy in my house. I've got joy in my house.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Joy in My House, inspirational reality broadcasting show with a touch of recovery. An internet reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
I'm joined here by recording artist Lolita Robinson. Welcome to another day of Joy in My House.
Well, thank you, and happy Father's Day to you and Van Eric and our guest today.
Well, we want to thank you out there, all the listeners and viewers, for tuning in and joining with us, and all the Facebook likes that we get, and all the requests and everything. We want to thank you for being a part of the joy that we have in our house. I hope that you continue to engage with us and give us your comments or questions. The studio line is always open with any questions or comments as well. The number here is 323-247-7443. You can also find us on Facebook /Joy in My House. We have a Twitter account as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
So twitter.com /Joy in My House.
So you tweeting?
I'm trying to. That's a whole other job in itself. But I do want to let you guys know, if you guys are listening to us and want to stream us live, feel free to find us on ustream.tv /Joy in My House or /LA Talk Live, and you can stream us live on any mobile device. We're also on iTunes genre R&B, LA Talk Live Radio, and you can listen to us on iTunes as well. I want to recap last week's show.
Yeah.
Terry Hilgen.
Boy, I tell you,
Christian Fellowship.
That was awesome. He was just, it was interesting how the Lord took that show, because he had all this exuberance and joy. I thought it was going to be kind of but it was very, very kind of powerful and serious.
It was.
See, the Lord knows what he wants to do, but it was awesome. I really had a good time.
Yeah, what an amazing testimony too. An amazing testimony that took him, it was a process.
Yeah, it was.
Certain things got delivered right away, but he was talking about his anger and how it took 5 years.
Yeah,
5 years.
And to see how he broke the cycle with his own son. I'm always blessed when I see, like today when our pastor comes on, we'll share what I got to experience with him and his son. But it's always a testimony when you see, like, you and your daughter on Friday nights or together, when your kids come along and they are supportive, that God is moving.
I agree.
They know. They live there.
There was a show. What was I watching? Oh no, I was on JCTV. We're taping a show for their telethon, and one of the preachers was from the Potter's House.
Oh.
TD Jakes. So I'm trying to get.
I just love TD Jakes. Please, Pastor.
I know.
I love our pastor too. So I gave
my contact information. Told him if they're ever interested, we would love to just kind of network and just get to know one another. But he was giving a message, and he was talking about that coming into purpose and the family, that the kids are able to really realize the truth.
Right.
They're able to really see without even words.
That's it.
The faith and the trust that they have in you.
Yeah. That says a lot for parents.
It does.
It really does. So it was really a blessing to see. What was his name again? Pastor
Terry.
Pastor Terry. That's what. Yeah. So I was really blessed by the show.
Same here, and like you see, I got an opportunity to talk to his son and what his son's doing, and to see him just be a good kid, and to see him that he's a faithful kid. Right. Really just blows me away, because that's the future I want for my children, to know Christ. Right. I used to pray, let my partner, my girlfriend, find Christ. I want to minister with my partner, and then God gave me my children to come alongside me, and especially my eldest daughter who does her own program called The Landing out at Parkhurst Christian Church.
That is so amazing. And you said the Lord had you partner up with your daughter. Yeah. That's the ministry right there.
It really is, and it's different, let me tell you, from what I wanted or what I expected, but I get to have that little joy. And we have these amazing conversations after our meetings, and we're driving home, and
that
it's just
is
me
so
and her.
Beautiful for me to be able to watch it. You talk about giving me all these perks and stuff, but to watch your family, because they were so little.
They were.
And to see you grow and see your kids coming in, and even your mom and dad have come and given us a lot of support.
They really have.
That is a blessing. God promised that he works and moves in families.
But the reason, we talk about credibility was because I saw you do it with your own children. And, I've heard you minister so many times and speak so many times. And how you said that you needed to get help because you saw your kids suffering.
They were suffering, right. Absolutely. And now I can see the fruit of it today.
Yeah.
They didn't escape it. They have their own things, but to have dinner with Joseph, that was just amazing to see what God is doing in his life. He's finding the Lord on his own. He's having his own relationship. And that's the important thing. So I'm really blessed by that. And I'm so excited to hear today about...
we have a great show today, ladies and gentlemen. It's our Father's Day
But I wanted to
special.
thank Julie Orlov last week.
Oh, yes. You were on the Julie Orlov show.
That was so amazing. I had such a good time. It was like being in her front room. And it helped me, too, because like you said, we're still on a journey here with the Lord. We don't stop growing till we go home to be with him. I got to see... I'm so glad I've been doing all this foundation work, and that's what we want to encourage people to get a strong foundation with Christ, to deal with issues if you have them. Then God can really start building upon that. And I got to, kind of experience that. I'm waiting for it to see now as God starts building upon all the things that had to be leveled and torn down and rebuilt. I'm looking forward to seeing what the next stage is. So,
well, yeah, you had a great show. So if you're just tuning in with us, I want you to find the Julie Orlov show. I think it's called Pathway to Love.
Yes.
Pathway to
Good
Love.
book, too.
And it was last week's episode, and Olita was her guest. And you guys had a great time.
We had a great time. In fact, we chatted all... Women are wonderful. We just chatted all through. And but Eric had to say, commercial, girls, commercial. So, it's neat. Sisters, there's just something about women. I'm looking forward to the men today. But real quickly, I want to thank all of my new Facebook fans who, you've got to be from the show because I've never met you. Thank you for wishing me a happy birthday.
Yeah, a lot of happy birthdays. I saw that on your Facebook page.
Yeah, and I know you're getting a lot of likes
Yesterday
too.
was your birthday.
It was my birthday.
And you got an opportunity to spend it with your son.
Yeah.
And we talk about, I know that we lost Daryl.
Yeah.
I knew Daryl.
Yeah, this is a hard day today for me. I think it is for Seth too. Yeah, it's a hard day today.
We talked about this on Mother's Day, how, it's not always rosy and Mother's Day and celebration. A lot of people, and this is part of life. So a lot of
people don't have their dad. So I always say I'm gonna sit back and listen. I'll inject something, but I'm looking forward to seeing from the men's perspective what you guys as being fathers and the challenges. So I'm looking forward to today.
Well, thank you for that. Because let me tell you, I was just talking about Eric earlier, the challenges, but the perks are so overwhelming compared to the challenges, and women have a different relationship because you guys birthed the child.
Yeah, we're there with them. Yeah, we automatically.
But for men, it's for me personally, it was something that had to be fostered, had to be developed. My mom said, I forced you to watch your kids so you would love them because that love has to be fostered. And now my babies are just everything. I'm even down on my puppy, who's also a girl.
I know.
You have to develop that relationship, and as you do, you create that connection and that bridge. So today we have an amazing Father's Day message from Pastor Jeff Timblin from Bridges Church, who is our pastor. And we're very excited. So if you're just tuning in, I want you to stay tuned with us. Stay engaged. I want you to tweet us. I want you to find us on Facebook. Any questions or comments, the studio line is open 323-247-7443. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House, and we'll be right back with Pastor Jeff Timblin from Bridges Church with our Father's Day message. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
How can I forget you? Where did the sweetness go, Lord? Have I fallen from your hand? Am I so far from you, Lord? Is my life in your plan? Where can I run when I feel all alone? Do my words truly reach you high on your throne? Where did your presence go, Lord? Have you pushed me far from your mind? Where did our laughter go? Were you smiling?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to Join My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. I'm joined here by author of Shaped by the Master's Hands,
Thank you,
Lolita Robinson, and our in-studio guest, Pastor Jeff Timblin from Bridges Church. Welcome to the show.
Yes. So glad
you had an opportunity to come on our show before and gave our Christmas message, which I thought was amazing. It was one of our Christmas specials, my first special that I did for the show, and I was really excited about a Christmas tree. And we had a Grub and Hook come and sponsor the show. Oh, that's right. We had
Leon. That's right.
We had Leon. But the most powerful part was your message.
Yes.
Thank you.
It was.
Out of all the decorations and the celebrations. And I remember kind of going through a tough time that day. Just going through Christmas and finances, and you get distracted, and you gave this message that I thought you were just giving it just to me.
Yeah, it was
so
beautiful.
I hope that you guys out there
telling
today,
us about the difference in the believers and what that was all about. So we haven't forgotten. So we're looking forward today, Pastor.
Well, thanks for having me back.
Well, today we have an amazing show for Father's Day. We have our Father's Day episode today, so thank you for tuning in. Once again, I want you guys to engage with us out there. The joy that we have in our house is not just because we've done things isolated, and I tend to find myself isolating more and more now as I get older and issues start coming up where you guys, especially, Lolita being a part of my life and her birthday being yesterday and Pastor now mentoring me. And
that's so awesome.
That, we need to engage with one another and be there for one another, even just a little time that we share. When you mentioned that you had lunch with Joseph, I've missed Joseph.
Oh, I know.
I need to call him up.
We're gonna get together. Well, I'm excited. What do you guys got planned?
So Pastor Jeff Timblin is here from Bridges Church. This is our church. Is our church in Long Beach or Lakewood?
It's in Long Beach.
It's considered Long Beach. From Long Beach, California. And I want you guys, again, engage with us. Find us on twitter.com/joinmyhouse. You can also find Pastor on
bridgeschurch.org.
Bridges.org. Find us, link up with us. If you have any questions or comments, you can contact him directly. It's amazing that our pastor makes himself so available to us. A lot of big churches, their pastor, you can't even say hello to him, let alone shake his hand. So for our pastor to be able to come on the show and be so available, not only to us, but to everybody in the congregation is amazing. So thank you for joining us again, welcome. Pastor. Thank you again. Let's get right into it. I like your message. You sent me an outline of your Father's Day message, and you write who I am as a father.
Oh, wow.
That's how you started off, and it convicted me, like, who am I as a father? But I want you to go ahead and tell us a little bit about how's your Father's Day going so far?
Sure. Well, fathers, because I have 4 kids, and it's been a busy season. My oldest son just graduated from high school, so we've been just partying and going all the different activities. And
that's a big deal. You get him over the finish line somewhat.
And so I have an 18-year-old and then a 9-year-old and 2 kids in between. So different life stages and busyness. And today we had our gathering at our church, and it was a special time for me because my youngest, Benjamin, and son of my right hand, he very much fits his name because he's always around me. He always likes to be with me, and I just really appreciate that. And well, he came up to me about 10 months ago, and he said, "Hey, Dad, can you make sure you don't go to Africa? Because I get the opportunity to travel a lot on Father's Day this next year." And I'm like, "Okay, why?" And he says, "Because I want to be baptized. In the last 2 years, you've been in Africa."
Wow.
And I was like, "Well, why Father's Day?" He goes, "Well, because my sister and brother got baptized on Father's Day, so I've been waiting." And
for my turn. Oh, how awesome. And it was beautiful to watch it too.
It was neat. Yeah, so I said, no matter what, I'll be in town and we'll do this. And so it was fun today. He's just initiated that on his own, and we made sure every one of our kids has asked us about baptism. We didn't want to, force that on them or manipulate that. But yeah, he understood.
And that's amazing that you didn't, being a pastor.
Yeah, it's easy to do.
It's not easy because it's like me in martial arts. I teach. So I forced my kids.
Yeah.
I told them, you're training. Now, my 2 younger children, Zaylee and Sebastian, took to it. But my older one, she didn't take to it. It was a struggle just to get her to where she got. She got up to half black right before black belt. But I had to force her. And I kind of look back at that now saying, maybe I shouldn't have. I should have just let her want to do it on her own, because that's amazing how fulfilling that must be for your son to say, I want to be baptized.
Yeah, it is. It's neat. All of our kids have sought out the Lord on it. It's a funny thing with Christian parenting. I mean, when I was called into the ministry, I didn't know anything about pastors or pastors' kids or church. And I started studying pastors' kids because I knew I'd be raising some.
Oh, wow.
And the ones that seem to really have peace with their children and the children understanding Christ, from my experience, the most were the ones that really let their faith develop in their kids. And that doesn't mean they didn't direct them. And we go to church as a family and we talk about, Christ is a big part of our family. But when it comes to that personal relationship, anything that's intimate and personal, I want them to initiate that. I want God to bring that out in them so that it's not feeling like they have to please me and do certain things spiritual to please their dad. And I didn't want that resentment to develop later on when they become collegians, because I've seen that happen with a lot of kids.
And the thing that was also so beautiful by me getting a chance to see it, his answers were they were short but precise. He really thought them through.
Yes, we talked that through.
That was amazing. I was really, I mean, he just, how did that come about? I mean,
well, when he said he wanted to be baptized, I said, well, let's sit down and talk about it. And I said, I usually ask some questions, and what would your answers be? And I didn't manipulate any of the answers. I said, well, let's type it up. And I told him to study it and go over it. And then he came back and he made some changes of his own. He didn't want to be up there long because there's a lot of people.
You know what? He got right to the point.
He did. He was quick on it. But he had notes. He didn't look at them. He just kind of shot from the heart. But he had processed that ahead of time, because we always tell our kids, and faith is yours. And Christ comes in personal, intimate relationship with each of you. And you don't need to do things for us. You need to do it for your relationship with God. And he's picking up on that, and he understands that. In fact, how he became a Christian was we were driving in the car as a family, and he kept asking questions, and his older brothers really one explained it to him.
Wow.
And
which one, Colson?
Chad.
Or Chad?
Yeah, and Chad's actually the one that led Colson to the Lord in their bedroom. It's just
now look at
sharing
that.
Christ in that way, and very
organic
way instead of programmatic or something that's forced. Yeah,
because I feel like I found Christ through Lolita, and I didn't even understood what it was about. She just said, are you willing to give your life to Christ? I said yes. And, we said our prayer, and then she says, well, now you got to witness to somebody. Go and witness to somebody and let them know. And I didn't know what I was doing.
But there had to be some foundation, some seeds planted, even in your family. You came up in the, I think sometimes I came up as a Catholic, and we're not just, trying to be against the Catholic Church, but there were a lot of good seeds that were planted.
I agree.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure there was some foundational things that the Lord started way before I came into the picture.
But I think that was a pinnacle point for me.
You to know when you actually gave his heart. Yeah,
to know that this is, it's just like I say, as a martial arts instructor, I test my students. I know that they're ready to test. I'm not going to put somebody and test them and then say you failed, unless that's my purpose. The purpose of testing isn't for that. It's my job to prepare them. Then when I test them, you succeeded. You went through the process of testing to succeed, and I think that was part of my process, that I had to take that step and say, especially when I did my baptism at church, it was the process of saying, I'm stepping onto the mat. I'm ready to put up this fight for Christ. I'm ready. Whatever it is, it was significant. And the first time is when you asked me to give my life to Christ in that car.
Okay, so that's
So that process for your children that your son brought them to, I think it's a vital step.
And the thing that's so interesting is that you were your mother, right, was the one who was the catalyst for the church, for the family. Were you Catholic also, or
no? We just she just kind of prayed us all into the kingdom and kept sharing Christ with us. And
who witnessed to her?
My mom came from a kind of broken home situation and alcoholic background, and her father, and she just started walking to church through the snow in Pennsylvania.
Oh,
and one of those stories when she was a little girl by herself for many years, and just fell in love with Christ. And she was actually National Sunday School Teacher of the Year a couple of years ago.
What?
That was kind of a neat thing. I didn't know that existed, and they gave her that honor. And since she was, I think, 11 years old, she's been teaching Sunday school, and she's teaching this morning, so she's been consistent, and it was a special time to see literally the hundreds and hundreds of kids that she's led to Christ and shared, the gospel with and taught them. So,
well, I'm so glad you said that. I'm always interested how God takes a story, because some people might be looking at you like I did when I was a new Christian. Had I heard your story, I thought, boy, that's beautiful. I can't relate to that because I don't have a father and a mother who were saved at the time. But here your mother, from a broken family, gave her heart to the Lord, and look how God has. So there's hope for people out there. Everybody doesn't have to come from a family that's intact. And
no, in fact, all families are broken at some level, you know. And I think part of the things, my process, I was praying through this whole idea of being a father and Father's Day. I think sometimes in the church we feel this need to paint a facade amongst our children that we're perfect, that we have it all together. And if I show any weakness, then my kids aren't going to respect me. They're not going to. It's really the opposite.
I would testify to that. The time that I shared my story and I gave my testimony for the first time, I invited my daughter, and my daughter was sitting in the audience, and she heard me give my testimony, and I thought, man, I'm really spilling a lot of stuff about myself, my drug use, my womanizing on her mother, you name it, just the deepest, darkest hurts that I had, thinking that she was gonna judge me. And just the opposite. We drove in that car home, and we went and had a coffee and a snack, and she opened up to me about her stuff. That was amazing. I thought just the opposite. I did it faithfully, not knowing what was going to happen, but thinking, I don't know how she's going to take it. She's probably going to, distance herself, and it just the opposite has happened. So I testify.
I'm so glad you said that about brokenness, because people are, they'll look at you and think, well, yeah, it's okay for you. You got a wife and 4 kids, and your life is cozy and cushy, but that's not true.
No, not always.
Right.
I mean, God's blessed us, and I like what you said, Joelle, because someone told me this once. Sometimes leaders or fathers or mothers feel like we have to put ourselves on a pedestal, and a friend of mine explained that. He says the problem with a pedestal is it creates distance because you're above everybody.
Wow.
And you're
Yeah.
easy to push over.
Oh.
And I think if we fake it in front of our
like
kids,
that.
you know what? We're going to be distant. They're not going to come to us like your daughter was willing to come. And the other thing is, eventually, when they get a little bit older, and they get in their early 20s, they're going to realize we weren't perfect, and they're going to be disillusioned, and they're going to push us over.
Oh, wow.
But I think if we're confessional with our kids and apologetic and say, I blew it here. I apologize. Will you forgive me? Man, that draws my kids to me. It doesn't distance them. And I think that's the way Christ is. He draws all men to him. So I think that's an important principle in raising kids, for sure.
And who you are as a father. So what you're saying is you're a human father who loves the Lord, who's in this process, the race with them.
Absolutely. In fact, if you look at the scriptures, and what I love about the scriptures, they're so biographical, and they're always talking, there's stories, there's narrative. These are real people. You start looking at some of the heroes of the faith, not such good fathers. You look at.
I don't think any of them are.
Yeah, I think
well, a lot of
shaking
them,
his head. No,
I think you wrote about that in your outline.
I did.
And I love this.
Yeah, what do you have to say?
This is going to be a great message. You talk about good men, flawed fathers. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, good men, but they had a lot of flaws, and I do too as a father.
Same here.
But we don't excuse that, but we point it out that we're human. Noah, just drunk and naked before his 3 boys. I mean, there's something there. And he had a distant relationship. But Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, you look at that pattern. That was a dysfunctional family. And Abraham, with his favoritism, went outside of God's will and decided, I'm not going to wait for you, God. I'm going to have a child with somebody else on my own. And then he resented that child and neglected him. And then he had Isaac, and he favored Isaac. And we, for generational problems.
We're looking at the problem with that now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, then Isaac comes along. What did he learn? He did the exact same thing his dad did. Yeah. He started favoring one of his children, and he said, I like, Jacob and Esau, and he favored Esau. And the mother favored Jacob. Well, what happened there? He was neglecting the one and basically pushed Jacob away. So what did Jacob do? He had 12 kids. He favored 2. Yeah. And neglected 10.
Wow, that's true. I didn't look at the neglect in there.
Yeah,
that's
see
true.
that. And you don't think kids pick up on that? Of course they do. The hatred they had for Joseph. Joseph was a teenager when his brothers, the Bible says they saw him coming, and they seething with anger towards him and resentment because his dad kept raising him up. It wasn't even Joseph's fault. What did they do? They ended up selling him and wanted to kill him out of that built-up resentment. Yeah, and you see that pattern. So yeah, those are our patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, not such good fathers, and you can keep going. David, mighty David.
Now, David didn't really, would you say he favored, well, maybe Absalom? I don't know. Would you say he favored, I mean, David was a real mess. David he was a mess.
Yeah, he was a mess when it came, very permissive parent, very absentee. And,
that's true.
And he let Absalom do whatever Absalom wanted. He didn't give him the boundaries that he needed, and, and it ended bad. It ended rough, and then he passed that on to Solomon. Solomon, with all of his, multiple relationships and all his kids took over the throne. Very wicked, very wicked. So you see Well, there's some mighty men of faith, and it's easy for us to take shots at them because their biographies are in the scriptures. But at the same time, yeah, you know what? They could have done a lot better there as parents. You get into Eli, raised Samuel really well.
That's what kind of helped me with my sons. I remember Eli, and I thought, it was hard sometimes being a mother over sons, but I thought, if you don't hold your kids accountable, God doesn't. Yes. He did that, didn't he?
He did. He and it's funny. I think because God is a God of grace, there's a phrase that comes up a lot about these parents, and it's repeated a lot, and it's a phrase that says, "In his old age," and in his old age, Jacob treated Benjamin different than he did his other kids. Joseph different. David in his old age. It comes up in all of those stories, and they changed. And I think they realized, well, I was pursuing some things for my own aggrandizement. I was pursuing some things for my own drive, but neglecting my kids. And then in their old age, they're stepping back and said, what's the better priority? The better priority is your family and being a father the way God called
you know what? I've read the scripture before, and that's why God has you here to find those things. In their old age, they did it differently.
Yeah, because you talk about the grace for your father. You talk about that.
Yeah, and I think it's important to do that. When we're raised, kids spell love Time. I mean, it's not Love. It's time. How much time do you spend with your kids? And when you get older, parents get a lot wiser in a kid's eyes when they hit about 23 years old.
Yeah.
Because they start realizing, well, this is tough stuff, and my dad wasn't so off and this and that. And I've learned through the years to really not just give my father grace, but help other people understand, and look at the background. Look at where my father came from and the dysfunction with his family. And then I remember when I was very young meeting my great-grandfather, or not meeting people who knew him, and he was the town drunk.
Oh, wow.
And I see from there till now and how much my parents really broke the mold. My mom coming from brokenness, my dad coming from a very dysfunctional family, broke the mold with us, my sisters, and myself. And that, to me, is grace. God did that. And God came in and changed that. And we need to give our parents grace and let them be broken. Let them struggle, and let them, give them the grace to say, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not perfect, and realize that, There's a couple scriptures that talk about the sins of the father. The sins of the father are handed down from generation to generation. But so are the blessings even more so. Right. And it's like tenfold compared to one or two.
But people leave that out. Doesn't it say that for those who don't love me?
Yes.
See, that's a difference.
Yes.
Because people say, well, the sins are passed on to the father's third and third generation. But it says to those who don't love me.
Yes.
Who don't give access to, It
says right here, Exodus 25, you shall not worship them or serve them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of fathers on the children, on the third and fourth generations of those who hate me.
Hate me.
Yeah. So it's not an automatic, because God's a God of grace.
And I think sometimes people think, well, because we don't love you, you punish us. But when you don't let him in, you open yourself out. People forget that there is an enemy. And I think it's not so much him saying, well, if you don't love me, then I don't love you. When you don't love him and invite him in to have stewardship in your life, you open yourself up to all kinds of stuff. Do you think so, Pastor?
Oh, I agree. And I think the responsibility as parents, I think that is reflected on our children's pay that price at times. But when we're surrendered to Christ and we're confessional, and David, all that stuff he made up, what did God say? You're a man after God's own heart, because you had a repentant heart.
How do you explain that to people?
Because he had a repentant heart.
Okay.
And see, the thing is, if we raise ourselves to be perfect parents, who are we pointing our children to? Us. If we raise ourselves up and say, I need a Savior too, who are we pointing people to? Christ. And I want my kids to follow Christ. I don't want them to follow
me. Exactly.
I'm not someone worthy of being followed.
See, I made that mistake within my family. I put my dad on a pedestal. I mean, he was a perfect man, and he's an amazing man. If I'm half the man my father is, I did all right. But I did put him on this pedestal. So when he made a mistake, my world came crashing down. I thought, never my father. No. And that really destroyed, my faith. What have I been believing in for so many years, that he's perfect, not knowing that, not thinking he's a man too, and he's gonna make mistakes. So it was almost something that I had to go back, especially in my recovery program, and talk about, because it shattered my faith. But then, like I say in my testimony, it allowed me to rely more on Christ and God than any human, than my father, than, you know, my girlfriend, than my children. It had me have to rely only on Him, which was the process that God was working with me in my life.
Sure. Who is the rock? Who is the perfect dad? Who you cannot be shaken? Who will never disappoint you? Can't be pushed over. You know, and that's the goal. That's the goal. You know, as we raise our children, we raise them to follow Him. Paul says, "Follow me as I follow Christ." That's discipleship model. Well, your discipleship, Joel, is your kids, and yours are the leader. That's your number one group of people that we're supposed to spend our time with, developing them to follow Christ. And if we can release them to do that with their kids, that's the model.
Yeah, I could only pray that my kids do that to their kids, like I wish they had done to me. Yes. But my parents put me in parochial school. I went to an amazing. I went to St. John Bosco.
They planted some seeds. I appreciate what you're doing, but the foundation is they did.
They did. My parents, like I said, they've sacrificed so much for me, and for me to have gone down the other road. Why I don't know.
That's the part where you're the prodigal.
I am. That's
I'm
who
the
I
woman
am.
by the well. JT.
But I like what you're saying here. You know, having grace for your father, because I had to have grace for him, and also forgive him,
right?
And remind myself that he is not God.
Yes.
That he is not God, and he makes mistakes, just as I would want my children to have grace on me. Because I put mine on video, I put mine on my testimony, and I speak it out, and I want them to have that grace on me, because I need it. I need it, because if they didn't have grace on me, I mean, my kids would not talk to me.
Yeah.
So what are you two saying in terms of there's two groups that you're talking to then? Are you talking to the fathers who need to feel the grace, like you said, that you're not perfect? And how about the people who are out there listening who say, I didn't have a perfect father? So...
Well, I think none of us had a perfect father.
Right.
And I do
angry
believe...
and don't want to serve the Lord because of that.
Right. And to step back and say, you know, God is sovereign on that. We didn't pick our parents. But God knows what we can handle. He knows what He wants to take us through. And I would say, if your parents are still around, tell them thanks for the things that they did. There's always some good, and no matter how bad a parent might seem, you know. And I think if you want to encourage that, you know, it's therapeutic for you to say thank you for that, instead of holding on to this. Oh, my dad's not perfect. Of course, your dad's not perfect. You know, I'm
glad you did that Hall of Fame there.
Yeah. So look at those guys.
Yeah.
You know, my mentor, he told me a story. We share a lot, and we eat tacos and share. And he's been mentoring me for 25 years. And there was a tough time his daughters were going through, and they were in their mid-20s and just kind of making some choices that weren't real healthy. And his wife and he were talking, and she goes, "Oh, honey, did we screw up our kids?" And he goes, "Of course we did, honey. At some level, of course we did." And he said that for her, that was so helpful. It took all the pressure off. He goes, God will cover that.
Right.
And we'll do our best we can, but we're flawed human beings, and we want to point them to the Savior. And at some level, every parent messes up their kids somewhere. And I think if you can go into it accepting that and make that a part of the atmosphere, and not excusing it.
Yeah, you're not condoning and saying,
this is
who I am. Right.
Again, that points them to the right direction. And that's been beneficial to me and my kids, because I think, you know, pastors live in a glass house anyway.
Yeah, you do.
And I never wanted to put that on my kids, you know, and sometimes my kids will verbalize that. Well, you know, people think I have to be this or that, and I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's good, you know. So to try to be confessional in our parenting is really helpful.
When you talk about that, having grace for yourself, because we're all in the process.
Yes.
We're all in the process.
Well, how about your dad? I mean, your relationship with your father, and you're able to give him a lot of grace. I mean, how is his health now? I know he's had some struggles with his health.
Yeah, God has done amazing things with my dad and I's relationship. And a lot of it is I just had to grow up and realize what I'm talking about here, to be honest. And yeah, you know, I tell you a real quick story. Well, I had this great idea, and it turned out to be a really bad idea. We were at a holiday.
Welcome.
I like the way it starts already.
We were at a holiday gathering, and I was like, well, we're all kind of talking. I said, hey, why don't we share some great Christmas memories that we had growing up?
Oh.
Okay? So my mom goes first. She goes, I can remember one time we had enough money to tie some oranges onto the tree back in the backyard.
Wow.
That was my best Christmas. And my dad's like, didn't have any, just rough relational stuff with. And my brother-in-law was even worse, and I was like, oh. And what I took away from that, other than it really flopped, what I took away from that, and I wrote my parents a long letter after. I said, you guys gave us great Christmases. You gave us wonderful memories. You broke the chain. And the fact that they did that, I mean, they're ahead of the game. I mean, that was amazing. They could have passed all that baggage on to us.
Right.
But no, they overcame that, and we are the beneficiaries. My kids are the double beneficiaries.
Yeah,
of
they
that,
are. They are. They'll do. They'll even do more than what you've done.
Absolutely. And my wife too. Just some of the background that her parents came from, and to see, it's just a beautiful thing. And from much is given, much is required. And I don't think I have a choice not to do my best as a parent because of what I've been handed down. So yeah, lots of grace, lots of appreciation for my parents. Both of them. It's it's tough being a dad, but it's a good tough. That makes sense.
It really is. I would concur. Being a dad has some amazing blessings. Like when my daughter tells me, I love you, Daddy, or these little things, they just fill my heart in a way that I never thought could be filled. By words. Yeah. And now my son, who's 12
really
years
quiet.
old. Yeah, real quiet. Him expressing himself. I tell I love you, Sebastian, or I put him to bed and I scratch his back and I tell I love you. He tells me he loves me too. Wow, that's just, it's at a different level.
Yeah.
And because I didn't birth them, I don't have that real intimate connection with them. It's something that has to be developed and fostered in order for us to have that. So it really has its.
It does, and I was sitting here thinking, okay, what about me and my father? Well, my father was one of the instruments that did a lot of harm in my life. But the beautiful thing about it is that God has brought me so many men that have been a healing force. You guys have been like fathers to me in different ways. In my relationship with even Van Eric, and just when you showed up at my event, I get cheered up now. I get so much from you and Liz, and Joel has just been, and my sons. So I'm talking to the women out there who might not have had a good dad, but God can put people in your life. He says he puts the lonely in families, and that's what he's done in my life. And so I am so blessed to sit here amongst you men and reap this, and I just can feel God healing even more so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I think that parents, men and boys interact so differently than with their daughters, but it's still time. It's just different kind of time, and I call it shoulder time, with my boys. Just sitting in a car driving, that's when they talk. Late at night, that's when they open up. My daughter, she opens up all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just different. And just planning those. I just got back with one of my sons, spent 2 days in San Diego, and it's the drive down and the kayaking in the same kayak and driving back where we talked.
Who was it, Chad?
It was Colson.
Colson,
yeah.
okay.
And it's just that shoulder time. That's why I think golf is so popular for men. Because we have to do something.
Explain that one.
Please
explain that one to me.
For men to feel comfortable to interact, they can't just sit across from a coffee shop and talk like women are more comfortable doing that. Men, if we're hitting a little white ball around, we'll talk about just about anything because we're a little bit distracted. I had a friend, another pastor up north, and we used to just get in the car and drive up PCH, talk, turn around and drive back. And we had the best talks. But if we tried to sit together and look at each other, we'd never say anything.
Okay.
And so it's just kind of a neat way to communicate differently with different kids, definitely.
Well, we wanted to chime in with our producer here, Van
Yeah,
Eric.
Van,
How's your Father's Day going, Van?
Yeah, Van, what's up?
Because I know that you sacrificed quite a bit to.
And you all are talking about me.
Yeah, it's been good. Good right now. My daughter texted me this morning, because she's back on the East Coast. So, the bond that her and I have isn't the way I like it to be right now. But the fact that we communicate on a consistent basis, so that's good enough for me for right now. So I have those. I don't have no true complates.
Okay.
Anything like that. But
how about your dad? What was
My dad and I was cool. He left my mother when I was 5 years old, but he was always around. He would call first to call my mom to let him know he's coming over to get me. And for the longest, I couldn't understand it until I was old enough. He was like, because he would avoid any arguments. And I find out I had to do that with my daughter's mother.
So now you're talking about another.
Yeah, I had to, call. I would call first and meet my daughter on the porch, get her, and bounce real fast. It took a while for God to make her more civil towards me after the years went by. But it's cool, man. Because I know that me having a daughter, and this is just my way of looking at it, I'm my daughter's first boyfriend.
You're right.
So I had
Yes,
to look at it. I looked at it in that way, and had to perform a certain way so that when she's 22 now, so she's able to have the confidence when it comes to men and all that. I know I wasn't perfect. Because I told her that she, like for example, when I would have a bad day, and I was just saying this, and she was 5 years old at the time. I said, "Well, Daddy having a bad day, he needs a timeout." And I would put myself in that same corner in a bigger chair, of course, not the same chair. I couldn't fit her chair, but in a chair in that same corner, and would sit there in a nice amount of time. It wouldn't be like a minute, then I'm out. I would sit there, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and give me a chance to look over things, and then I'll get up. So this way, when I explained to her that she needs a timeout, she would do it. So, and it's trickling on to her son.
And I agree with you because I remember talking to Pastor because we get to spend Wednesdays
together. Which I think is awesome. That's so cool.
And I was telling
I lost my son.
And I get to spend time with him. And right now, I'm alone. I don't have a partner, and I'm really missing my ex-girlfriend. And I don't want to just go and jump into the next relationship. I felt like I had to find a really good girlfriend or wife to be a part of my children's life. And it wasn't that. It's really me waiting for God to bring that right person into their lives.
Is that what Pastor's been helping you see?
Well, that's one of the things we just kind of discussed about it, because I've been so lonely and so just, I'm with my kids all the time, and I miss having an adult to bounce off of or to have a relationship with. But he was saying, but that's a good thing, because then now your daughter gets an opportunity to see what it takes to wait for the right person, which I thought really helped me to keep on trucking, because it sometimes gets pretty destitute.
Sure. Well, kids watch us. I mean, they emulate us. They follow us in so many ways. And my daughter, I agree with you, man. I'm her boyfriend till I release her.
Yeah, you are.
You are. I pity the poor guy that wants me to release it.
Okay.
But
you guys
I think to give her confidence, that, that's important. That's so critical to her, because if you don't spend time with your daughter, they're going to look for that attention somewhere
else. And I at the age of 5, I taught my daughter that boys walk on the outside, girls walk on the inside. And I would purposely, whenever I walk out of a building, be on the wrong side. And this little girl at 5 years old would say, "Daddy, you're on the wrong side. You're on the wrong side." And she, like I said, she's 22, and if it's a male walking with her, she'll let him know. Hold up, man. You ain't having me on the outside. I'm not for sale. You know what I mean? You're gonna protect me, and you're gonna treat me like the lady that I am. You're gonna be a gentleman whether you like it or not.
And you guys are also fathers too, and brothers to the other women in your lives.
Oh yeah.
You have that role as a. How does that go with the women in your church? I know you have to have healthy boundaries, but how does that play out in being a pastor with the other elders? Because that's what's so neat about you. You don't like to be the head honcho. That's not you.
Yeah. Well, we are blessed. I had 2 older sisters, so it really helps me with relationships with other women, because I kind of understand them more than maybe I wouldn't if I just had boys in my family. But yeah, I have some very close friends, very close relationships, and but yeah, keeping the boundaries. But I think that the way I treat my wife has a lot to do with what I try to model. At least I try to say, hey, this is kind of what you should be treated like, and expect what he was sharing,
Yeah, exactly. And even though I don't have a son, but I feel, and this is just my opinion, that we as men that have sons or have that male influence in our life that we need to show them the passage to manhood.
Yeah.
That's so important, and because a lot of young men don't have that passage to manhood, so they don't know how to be a man.
Mm-hmm.
So they get their information from their peers or what they see.
And it's usually wrong information.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, absolutely.
It's usually wrong information.
Yeah.
And is it true? We're the only culture that doesn't have some kind of passage of right for men. Is that kind of true in the American culture?
Yeah, at least where I travel, that's very prevalent.
Mm-hmm.
And there's time, and the whole village is involved in that. You know,
Mhm.
where here it's just you're on your own. I think we can break that chain a bit. And for me, a lot of it's just semantics. Teaching kids, they know if my boys say something to my wife, I'm going to step up if it's inappropriate. I don't say that to your mother. I said nobody talks to my wife that way.
I love that.
And it teaches them, or don't talk to my daughter that way. And sometimes when the boys are fighting, I said nobody treats my sons that way.
Mm-hmm.
And to say this is what a man does. They take control in a good way, and they're the protector. They're the ones that stands up for you in your rights and who you are. Because who else is going to do that? If kids feel alone, they're vulnerable.
That's an
Especially
important
the
part.
men today. I
The
think that's a
phrase
real good
of the
point.
way you say it has a lot of power as well, because if we don't take the time and say it the right way or in certain ways, of course that child's going to interpret it the way they see it, coming at them.
Yeah, and it's going to fall on deaf ears too if you say it wrong or they don't find it appropriate. But we're going to go to a quick commercial break here. We're going to take a quick break, pay some bills, and we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Joy in My House. I want you to stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
My hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Did not trust.
Are you ready to enjoy the Maui lifestyle? You can have it all by owning real estate on the Paradise Island of Maui. Dennis Rush, a 22-year Maui resident and real estate broker, brings his wealth of experience and market knowledge to add value to your Maui real estate understanding, providing a level of service as unique and exceptional as the island of Maui itself. The magical island of Maui was voted the most exclusive resort island in the world by Condé Nast Traveler, and keep in mind, Maui is only a simple, non-stop flight away. Hawaii Business Magazine Top 100 Realtors awarded Dennis Rush the 2011 fourth top realtor on the island of Maui. Go to www.dennisrush.com to view all of the amazing properties currently available in the Maui MLS system. Whatever your needs or desires, Dennis Rush will provide a private consultation for any Maui properties your heart desires. You will be in good hands. Once again, go to www.dennisrush.com. That's www.dennisrush.com. Contact Dennis today to start your Maui lifestyle now. Dennis Rush, proud sponsors of the Dawn Christie Show and LA Talk Live.
Journey Sisters is an organization that embodies and captivates women from all walks of life. Our membership includes 44 women that are constantly growing in the areas of personal development and community involvement. Monthly, we offer free leadership classes at McKay's Restaurant. Journey aims to inform women in the areas of heart disease and HIV and AIDS. Experience the journey now by logging into www.journeymosaicinc.com. Toll free 888-906-5519. Journey with no excuses.
Hi, I'm Ro Williams.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Joy in My House, inspirational reality radio show with a touch of recovery. A reality radio show where nothing is left unsaid.
And no one is insignificant who says it.
I'm joined here by my co-host Lolita Robinson, our in-studio guest, our pastor from Bridges Church, Pastor Jeff Timblin. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say something to my father, who stepped in as a stepfather. He was a young man, and I didn't appreciate it at the time. I didn't understand fact he was from another culture. I want to say, Dr. Fifi, I love you so much, and thank you. And for the stepdads who were man enough to step up where biological fathers couldn't, and grandfathers and uncles who's I just want to say thank you.
And I think it's important that we mention that we send out a tweet, and we wanted to say Happy Father's Day from Joy in my house, from everybody from Van Eric to Lolita to myself. Happy Father's Day, but not only to just the fathers but the grandfathers as well, and the stepfathers as well. And we put that out there because I think it's important to say.
Have done it.
So I mean, even brothers that have taken that father role with their younger siblings. I think it's very important that we mention that you guys also have that father figure for us. I think it's important.
Yes. Well, I think, if we were to kind of summarize, I would hate to leave this thought thinking, oh, fathers are just flawed, therefore we have no hope. I think even as fathers, when I went searching the scriptures for the right example, and I found, wow, no one has ever loved their son more than God had loved his son, Jesus. So there's the perfect dad. There's a perfect example. And to think that they existed in eternity in perfect harmony forever, and then they teamed up to create the world together. The Bible is very clear on that. Jesus was very present in that. And then the fact that they teamed up together to love us is a pretty amazing idea and fact. And so when I was looking for ways to interact with my boys and my daughter, the Gospels are full of it. How much time did Jesus take away and spend with his Father? How much he was always seeking out advice and counsel and submission to his Father. They had that perfect symbiotic relationship. And so to me, that's the book that I go to find those things, And I started processing, boy, if God has the perfect love for his son, and no one's ever loved a son more than the Father, how precious and valuable does that make us?
Right.
And the scriptures tell us in 1 John 4:10, this is love, not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. That gives me and you and us so much value. Any human being that understands this, they could have to realize the value that gives him. God was willing he would rather die than live without us. He would rather sacrifice his son and live without us. That's how much he wants to love us. Of course he's going to help us become good parents.
Right.
Of course he's going to help us and enable us to be good dads. In the midst of our flawness, he'll still do that. He'll still deliver when we rely upon him. And that's the beauty of it, One last verse, John chapter 1 says, yet to all who did receive him, to those who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Children born not of natural descent, nor of human decision or a husband's will, but born of God.
Oh, wow.
That's
What's
the
that
gospel.
scripture again?
That's John 1:12-13.
That's very true.
Yeah, that's the gospel.
That is the gospel.
Yeah.
And I was saying during the break how important it was to tie that in with all the forefathers who were not functioning. It's for God to, because he wants us to love him first and make him the rock, even though we're to, honor our parents, but we're not to worship them.
No.
Right.
So I just love how you tied that in. That's what it's all about. Those of you who are out there and maybe don't have a father, your father's in prison, or, it was really interesting. I heard a man on the radio, I forgot what show it was on, and he said it just kind of hurts his heart when he's out and he's with his children, and he always gets the comment from people, oh, you're babysitting your kids today and giving your wife a break. And he says, that's not so. I'm watching these. He says, I don't get mad. I just tell him I'm just grateful I get to be a father to my kids. And I never thought of that because I've said that to men too. Can you relate with that?
Well, sure. And I think sometimes in our culture that there's this assumption that
you're just babysitting them. Or?
Yeah. Or, that we don't want to be with our children, which should never be the case, and I think we need to model that and tell dads, hey, this is what's expected. You should want to be with your kids because they're amazing. Yeah.
But people looking at you guys, he said, assuming that the mother is the focus point, not you. So that's very true. You do want to be with your kids.
Yes. Yeah.
For me, it's too much. I spend so much time with my kids. I mean, I the minute I bring them over to my house and I get them, throughout the weekend, and this week I've had them all week. It's like, all right, what do you guys want to do? Let's go do.
The women having long Mother's Day. That was May girls, May 10th girls,
right. And I tell my kids, well, what do you guys want to do? They're like, we just want to stay in, Dad. Like, and I'm like, no, let's go do something. Let's go skateboarding. Let's go, we go down to Birch Tree. Let's go walk the dog. Let's go to the swimming pool. I mean, my kids are at the point where like, well, we're done doing things. We just want to stay in and watch a movie. I go, well, let's go to the theater. No, we just want to stay in and watch it here. I really enjoy my time with my kids, and I want them to be outside and active, and I want to give them all the things that I was blessed to have, So I make a big effort to do things with them, and I know that sometimes my kids look back, and every time they say something like, oh, remember that time we went to that water park? Oh, that was so much fun. And I'm like, wow, so they do remember, because I want them to have good memories of us spending time together and fellowshipping with each other. So for me, it's kind of been the opposite. People don't say, oh, are you giving, your wife some time off? I guess because I'm very interactive with my kids. I think they look at me and say, man, that guy needs to give his kids back to their mothers.
Yeah, let them have some time. And for those of you who have lost your fathers, I mean, today is hard for us because we lost Daryl 3 years ago, and I think my sons are a little, their dad's not here, but that's why I was saying the Lord does put the lonely in families. It's in Psalms. I should have it off the top of my head, but look around and find some some like Joel, you're being mentored by JT. Find some men to come in, and I hope that my sons have, they do. They have people in place. And Seth, I mean, my God, he was been with Chad this week.
Yeah, he's always at our house. It's fun.
Yeah, thank you, because you're meeting a need. Even before I met you, you guys were meeting a need in my son's life. That's what drew me to your church. Because his dad was gone. So there's hope out there. That's what we're trying to say. There's hope, whether he's flawed, gone.
Yes.
I agree, because I search for that too. I search for that father figure, that mentor figure, even though my dad's very involved in my life. But I do search for that. And like you said, Pastor Bridges Church was doing that for Seth before.
Before I even knew them.
And then you went to Bridges and then invited me to Bridges. Right. And now I'm under Pastor.
And he's teaching you now as to be a man that I can't do.
And that's just an amazing how God really works. I mean, and this was something that God already had foreseen. For me, I'm at the tail end of it, and just being able to surrender to under Pastor JT. But it's amazing how he really does love us that much.
That's the model of the church too. I mean, God brought community together because there's gaps in all of our families. And there are people at our church that I'm like, wow, I really learned this from you and this from you and this from you, and that's what you're experiencing, true community. And that's what's the shame is people think, oh, I just read my Bible and I'm with God. Yeah, but you miss out on all the mothers and the grandfathers and all of that come with community, and that's what you guys are experiencing.
Yes,
it's a beautiful thing, the way God set up the church.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, like I said, I'm really, really just excited to be part of Bridges Church, and
find a church home. Come on out. You come on out to Long Beach, and the thing that's so neat is that how God worked it, because we did like our love Pastor Hinaho, so we did. I was our pastor for 15 years, but God knew that He was going to bring this radio situation, so we get a chance to have fellowship. We leave, maybe 10 minutes before service ends, but it's been so awesome. So you have a good time. The people can do what they need to do. You want to give a plug for our church?
Oh, well, we meet at 9 o'clock till 10:30, so you always get the first seat for lunch,
You should.
So that's kind of nice.
Next week you're going to be in trouble if you come, though. He's putting us to work.
Yeah, that's true. It's serve day. But, no, the thing about our church is it's filled with great people, and that is really the church. It's, it's not the program, it's the people. It's the gathering of God's people, and we have just amazing young families and older folks, just it's a blessing. Yeah, we're very blessed.
And you're going to Africa. Tell us real quick about that.
Leave for Ethiopia July 4th, taking 25 folks from our church.
Oh, wow.
And I just, my heart is in missions, and it's going to be a wonderful time. One of our pastors, Pastor Samuel's Ethiopian, he's out there setting it up, and it's going to be a wonderful time,
Well, I'm looking forward to having some guests from our church to come on, too, to have some really powerful testimonies and stuff.
God is doing amazing things in Africa right now.
Well, we like to ask this of all of our guests, even though you've been on the show before, and, maybe if we could talk in the present, especially being Father's Day. What joy do you have? What joy in your house do you have on this Father's Day, Pastor?
Well, on this Father's Day, it's an easy one. I have 4 joys, and those are my children. And I always told my wife, if I knew kids were going to be this much fun, I would have had more of them. I would have had them earlier, But yeah, we've really been blessed, and I would not change a thing on any of my children. God has really blessed us with that, and warts and all, they're wonderful.
Are they still fighting though? Because sometimes when the list comes, just pray. We know. So they're
Oh yeah, she's such a sweet spirit. She doesn't understand that sibling rivalry. I think,
That's what they do. They work it out.
Especially the boys. They got to become a man together, and they fight that away.
But you can sure see the love. You can sure see the love. You can.
We want to thank you guys out there for listening and following us and being a part of the joy that we have in our house. I hope that you guys have a blessed and happy Father's Day. And like Lolita was saying, whether your father's alive or not, that you honor them, or the people that have come in and taken that place as a father figure, make sure that you thank them today because they are a blessing to our lives, and God had strategically put them in your lives for a reason, ladies and gentlemen. So we want to thank you. We want you, don't forget to join us next week. We have an amazing musical artist by the name of Patrick Abit out of Italy, who's going to come out and perform live as well for next week's story. It's a great story of perseverance.
All right.
So join us next week, ladies and gentlemen. This is Joy in My House. I want you guys to follow us. Stay tuned. We love you. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Van.